Morning, welcome to the Dawn Patrol. I'm Bob Hoey, the host today. My friend next to me, Sam Chase, Chasing the Facts. He has his own show. I wish he was sitting in my seat because I wasn't prepared to be the host, but I know when Sam's here, or Evelyn, I always feel at ease anyways, and I know we're going to have a decent show. So I'd like to start by saying if you lost your mother, your father, your sister, anybody, and you've had a death in the past week or two, my heart goes out to all of you. I've had my share of death in my family, and it's not easy. So I know a few friends that just recently died, their family members, and all I can say is prayers and our thoughts are with you. And the same goes for New Orleans. I already know before we come on the show here today that Sam wasn't really paying attention to the news, but he has heard about New Orleans and what's happened down there. And you know, I know I'm feeling good. I think, Sam, 19 days is it when we get a new president to get in there? And I
January 20th.
Right.
Yep.
So.
Can you say what Evelyn is?
Oh, Evelyn? I'm not sure. I would say she's doing grandmother duties. I haven't communicated.
Evelyn is off today.
She's at the lake.
She's off today, and she's at the lake. And we always miss Evelyn, but the time is now, Evelyn, for local politics as far as I'm concerned. Sam, I'll stop in 1 second. I want you to
keep going.
Yeah. Well, I always say all politics is local. And I've sat on the show on Thursdays with Evelyn and Sam, and we bring people in like Paul Cohen, Jay Lang, those type of people that help Chelmsford. To me, Chelmsford is what it is because of those two people. And Sam, I'm going to get you going right now because I'm hoping Eric gets you and Lowell's watching you because watching the show, because I think the biggest part of what's coming up and what I fear is coming for all of us is major cuts. Major cuts. People are going to lose their jobs. Things are going to get privatized. This is just my own opinion. But when I sit between a Jay Lang and you and Paul Cohen and Evelyn, that's all I'm coming up with right now. Lowell's in trouble, I think, and we have to, you know, schools to me are everything. That's why I'm going to fire it up, and I'm glad Miss McFadden, we have a young lady that entered the race citywide. I'm excited about that.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes. To be a counselor?
No, to be a school committee
school committee.
member.
Okay.
And citywide, which no
Danielle McFadden.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's positive stuff, Sam. You know, when you get local and you start looking at the local issues, it's all that's really important. If we look at the federal and the world, you'll be in a state of depression the rest of your life.
Well, because I think, you know, you just made a very good point, and people tend to look at it the other way around, which always astounds me. They tend to think, well, the federal situation, the politics is most important, then state, and then local. And to your point that you just made, I think it's the other way around, because especially in using the Massachusetts model, your services are delivered locally, okay? It's the city or town that provides the direct services to the inhabitants, okay? Education is a wonderful example, okay? So education is supposedly in the control of the local situation, the city or the town. People vote for their school committee. The school committee is supposed to make the policy that governs how your school district operates. So I did not know about Danielle McFadden. I think that is wonderful, and I think that is exactly what is needed. She is somebody who's well known in Lowell through her work in the Chamber of Commerce and so forth. And she's young. That's the thing.
I never met her, Sam.
And we got actually I had her on my show 3 or 4 years ago on Chasing the Facts. So I hadn't met her up till that point, but I'd got to know her a little bit there, and I've sort of followed her career since then. But here's the thing. So right now you got two old guys talking to you, right? And Bob, you're 70.
Yes, sir.
And I'll be 78 in March. Okay, so you got the two old guys here. That's not what we need, okay? We need the Danielle McFaddens to jump in and try their hand at it, okay? And this is and I'm so glad to see that, because it's a problem right now. If you look at the local races for city council, school committee. If you're in a town, it's a select board and school committee and other governing bodies. It's very hard to get good people to step up and run for these races, especially in the towns where, in most cases, they're not compensated. So if you want to be a select board member in Chelmsford, or a school committee member,
You gotta be a rich guy.
you have to run for that, and there is no compensation at all, okay? The only time you will get compensated is if you incur an expense. Then you, for example, let's say you have to drive into Boston to testify on a bill at the State House. Well, the town will reimburse you your mileage, okay? But, you know, that's it. I mean, in other words, if you're a select board member in Chelmsford, it's going to cost you money out of your pocket to do that job. If you do the job the way it is supposed to be done and you attend all the functions you're supposed to attend, which, by the way, you have to buy the tickets, you're not compensated for that, it's going to cost you money, okay? And in addition to that, you're a well-intentioned person, you're going to run for select board, and the first time you make a decision, you're going to get trashed on Facebook, okay? So, I mean, you know, this is why people are not running, and I get it. I absolutely get it. But unless we get new people coming up to fill these positions, the whole system's going to come crashing down around on itself. And the same thing is true in Lowell. So that's why I'm really glad and to hear that she has stepped up, and I hope more people in her age bracket, okay, decide to get involved, because that's what we need. The old guys, we've screwed it up pretty badly, so I think it's time for us to step aside
That's
and
why I like what I do, Sam.
let the younger generation take a whack at it. They certainly can't do any worse.
You know, I like to take a stand on things. I have always been a person like that. And right now, my main issue, I would say, other than always going to be about schools, but this district where we're sitting right now,
Highlands.
No, it's called District 4, I believe.
Okay.
I'm not great with all this redistricting numbers yet.
I haven't got it. We did it in Chelmsford, and I'm still not up to speed on the new subdivisions.
I live in 3, which was the thing I called the swamp all my life, right? We had some good times calling things the swamp because Trump started it.
Did your thing change when they redistricted? Did your situation change?
Yes.
Okay.
Voting-wise, yes.
Yeah.
I used to be in South Lowell, I always thought, and then now I'm in Belvedere, which I vote in Belvedere, at the Pine School, which I live a stone's throw away from. But it's a very big, it's one of the big polls, maybe the top 5 polls in the city, when they come out to vote. But this district here, I don't live in it, but I'm going to work for it right now, and that's what I'm doing. We've lost a lot of people, you know, for whatever reasons. They moved up to New Hampshire, and they move everywhere, and we've had a lot of, I lived around the Portuguese people my whole life, and that's who I get all the calls from. You know, about illegal gambling in stores, over 30 cars broken into near Elm Street. They call me and I say, listen, these are the people you need to call. And I hate to always say, go call Eric Gitcher, go call Rita Mercer, go call certain people, you know, but that's what I do. And right now I'm going to go around this District 4 from right here to Drake it and just keep preaching that we need someone to run for the seat. We need someone to run for the seat in District 4. I'd love to see it come right from back Central Street. You know, like we had David Coach run a few times, and I run 3 times and lost 3 times. I mean, it's not easy. That was when you had to win citywide.
Yep.
But now you only have to win in your neighborhood.
Should be easier, right?
Oh, it's easier.
Yeah.
Some neighborhoods are going to be hard, but this district here, if you come out, you know, you get a $25,000 paycheck to be a city councilor. You know what I mean? That can help someone's budget. I know I did 7 years on the school, Sam, and when you talked about numbers, I love when I get you going with numbers, but I remember when I made $3,000 as a school committee person.
Now that was how long ago?
Oh, going back 90s, 92, 93.
So 30 plus years ago.
Yeah, so I was making $3,000. Then all of a sudden I was making $6,000. And I've only done 7 years. And then all of a sudden I was making $12,000. I went home and I started to look at the numbers. It's like $209 a week take home. And it helped me pay for those things you said. There's 29 schools.
Right.
You go to cake sales, you go to basketball games, you go to wrestling, and you donate. So the $12,000 raise actually made it a little easier to do that job because...
And I think that's the point, right? You know, they're not paying you a living wage. You know, couldn't be your only job, but it compensates you for the job that you are doing on the school committee or city council. Now, in terms of pay, you said the city councilors get $25,000. So what do the school committee people get today?
$12,000.
So it's 12. So how are those numbers determined?
By having a Senator Ed Kennedy that, when he was a city council, made a motion to give us all a pay raise. Thank you.
The school committee did not say a word.
I didn't say a word. You want to make
I'm sure they wouldn't.
$6,000 raise? I'm taking it.
The question.
Sam, all they had to do was, okay, I was doing the show then. Okay, and all they had to say to one city councilor is, we want the same money as you. But you know what they said? Say nothing.
Well,
just like the school committee does now. Say nothing.
Okay, so the question, I get that. So my question is, who decides on the number? Why are they getting 25 as opposed to 20 or 30?
It was after a conversation
Pardon?
with the city council.
All right, so the city...
And a look at around the state. They asked the then manager to look around the state to see what...
People were getting paid?
Yeah,
okay.
They use fancy words like stipends, honoraria. They don't, look, we're paying you, buddy. Honoraria.
I could be wrong when I say Senator Kennedy, but that's my opinion.
In some jurisdictions, the city council, it's a percentage or a factor of what your city manager or your mayor gets. Okay, so I know, like if you have 9 or you have 11 councilors now in Lowell, right? Yeah. So it might be that whatever the city manager gets paid, the city councilor gets 1/11 of that salary. Some places do it that way. So that's why I asked the question. You know, how is that determined? So apparently it's just a number that they came up with, right? 25,000.
That's my takeaway from paying attention back then.
You know, this District 4, getting back to it real quick, if you're listening or watch the show, and we'll be saying it now and then on City Life too, the TV show, the local TV show, that will help. You could come right on this show. It starts for nothing, and you could say why you want to run for this District 4.
I'll even let you come on my show.
Yeah, and those people that call me, nothing against you. I want you to keep calling me, and I don't want to say your names, but just spread the word. Find somebody. They could start by coming on this show. That's the way I remember getting elected, and just meet people. And this place is for the taking. District 4 needs candidates, you know, and I hope the producer doesn't run like he says he's going to now and then, and it has shaken the core of me to do something for Back Central Street, because that's where I was brought up in right next to Cavaleros. That's where I was brought up, on Lawrence Street, in the factories, and worked in many of them. Commodore Foods, Vertipile, I mean, it's all gone. Everything's gone the way it was for me. Sam, I had so many jobs, it was crazy.
Why'd you have frozen food place?
Fish
sticks. They used to make fish sticks on Lawrence Street.
Yeah, Commodore Foods. I would say the best job I had as a kid was definitely Courier Citizen. That's why you bounced around. I was an usher at the Strand Theater. I drove a little sun truck. You know, you move around till you find the job that you like and the money you're making. And I ended up at Courier Citizen for a while. Hard job, lifting bundles all the time and snapping these big steel cables off them.
Best thing in the world for you.
Yeah, and then I went to lugging shingles up a ladder, and then a prison guard. And that means I had no education, none. You know, I didn't like school. I couldn't read, but I had the gift of gab, Sam. I could get through. I faked my way all the way to my junior year. I've said this story 100 times here, until I run into a roadblock. And I can say her name, Mrs. Keeley, I love you. Because she stopped me again. You know, I'm not going to say how she put me against a wall, but this woman was incredible. I was a wise guy in high school. I was doing all the things you're not supposed to do. And she stopped me, I'll never forget it, and said, Mr. Hoey, I recommend you go in the Army. I'm like, what? Went home, said it to my grandmother. My grandmother said she might have a point because you're not getting anywhere where you are in high school. I wasn't. So I quit high school, worked a little bit, and then joined the Army. In the U.S. Army, I know you were in it, Sam. Mm-hmm. It made my life, man. Hey, I bought my house, all kinds of things.
Well, one thing about being an enlisted man in the military, it doesn't matter whether it's what service it is, you're all equal, okay? And when you go in, that means you're at the bottom, okay? And they treat you that way. And there's a psychological reason for that, okay? Yeah. Because you've got all types. And the one thing about the Army, I don't want to get into this too much, but I was in it at a time when everybody was getting drafted, okay? So, and the Army was the one for the draftees. In my basic training company, we really did have all types. I remember we had some kids who couldn't read and write, okay? And they got immediately sent off to what was called an STC, a special training company, and they taught them how to read and write. So it was the best thing in the world that could have happened to those kids. Am I wrong? Okay. Yeah. We also had, I remember, in that same basic training company of mine, we also had 5 guys that had PhDs, okay? And this is because people were getting drafted. And the draft didn't care whether you couldn't read or write or whether you had a PhD. If your number was up, your number was up, and you were going, okay? So that was the spread, okay? So everybody at that point, you go in. It didn't matter whether you had the doctorate in physics. I remember one fellow that I knew quite well. He had the PhD in physics, and then these folks that had very little education and came from very poor backgrounds were all together, okay? And at that point, it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter, because you're all doing the same thing, you're all focused on the same thing, and you're all being treated exactly the same way, like garbage, pretty much. When you first go in, they treat you like garbage,
I want to go back to what you're saying, but John, go ahead.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead, John.
Sam, when you were in grammar school, were you always a good boy?
Grammar school? Did you say grammar school?
Then we're going to high school, and then we're going to prison.
I was, yeah, because my parents were very strict.
Did you go to public school, private school?
Public school.
And you were goody two-shoes?
Well, I wasn't a goody two-shoes, but I wasn't bad. I mean, I was average, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't a brown nose or anything like that. You have to remember, in my case, I didn't like school. So to me, it was an ordeal. I had to get through it, okay? And I figured out very quickly when I was a kid that if I did act up and I did do bad stuff, it would be harder for me to get through it. So I kind of just kept my head down, focused, and did what I had to do. I did not like school at all until I got to high school. Then I started to like it a little bit. Right?
Okay, so in high school, were you goody two-shoes in high school? Or were you
average? No, I didn't cause trouble, if that's what you mean. No, I didn't do bad stuff.
Were you a ladies' man?
No. I didn't have my first girlfriend until I was almost a senior in high school.
Wow, you townies, something else. This is out in Concord, right?
Yep.
Okay.
No, I was not, and I was not somebody who, I didn't go with the crowd. I think that's what you're getting at. I did not go with the crowd.
So how was your first visit to the House of Correction?
My House of Correction?
You've never visited the House of Correction, have you?
Yes, I have, actually, because we had one in the town I grew up in. And actually, I had a very good friend whose father worked at the prison in Concord, so I was aware of that situation.
Are you done with that? Because I want to go back to when Sam was in the Army.
Well, I want to just touch on the weather outside. If you're going outside today, the wind is whipping like big time.
Oh, yeah.
It's 33 degrees out. You can see that's the flag at half-staff. And the wind's really whipping out there. 33 degrees. Back over to you, Bobby. Thanks.
Well, see, you always this will change my mind, just what John said. And believe me when I say this, the trees are still wet from all that rain, and the worst thing you can do is be in your yard underneath the trees. Watch out for trees. Watch out for branches coming down. That's the major issue when winds are about 60 miles an hour. I tell my son that before he leaves the house because we're in construction, you know. Wind is the worst thing we deal with.
Well, he's doing St. Louis, right?
Right, but I don't care what you're doing. When the wind's 60 miles an hour, a window can blow out. All kinds of things can happen because of wind.
You sure don't want
I'm glad you said something, John.
You sure don't want to be up on the roof, do you?
Right. You know, Sam.
Can you speak about that St. Louis project, or you have to?
Yeah, I can. There's going to be 21 units being built inside the church. The people that are building it is Ryan Rourke and Jimmy Zorbis, and my son's just the builder. My son's the one that does the major work, you know. Watch all the people that are doing it, do the roofs, and it's amazing what these kids are doing. And not just Rourke and Jimmy Zorbis. I'm telling you, Dave Daly Group, the buildings I'm seeing going up in Lowell right now.
But the one your son's working on.
It's unbelievable. The one my son.
St. Louis Church.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Regina Fadicante lives on Bunker Hill Avenue.
We don't want it. She doesn't.
No, it's part of this, though. St. Louis property. So to be able to put that kind of money, builders have to do certain things. Sometimes they'll sell a small piece of the land, and they'll let someone else build homes, which they did, Sam, right? 7 single-family homes on Bunker Hill Avenue and West 6th Street in Centerville. All of them are already gone for over $600,000.
Imagine that.
All of them.
600,000.
In one of our worst districts. Not the worst. Not the worst. Centerville's come a long way because of who they have for a city council. District 4 just needs a little bit more work than Centerville. I love saying things like that, Sam, because it will crank up these people. But it's so true. That property, they already have some rental spots, I believe. They're about, they went down on them. I think they were 2,300. They're probably down to around 21. Don't hold me on prices. But brand new place to live. A section that needs places for people to live, and look at this, selling for that kind of money. I'm saying to myself, wow, that's unbelievable.
Well, that indicates you've got a housing shortage, supply.
Oh, big time.
Supply and demand. I mean, if they can get if people are willing to pay that price, it means they, you know, if we had twice as many housing units, the prices wouldn't be so high, right?
When I go from Chelmsford to Lowell, I come by like the old Bob White's. I always call it Bob White's.
Well,
I'm sorry.
It was Bob White when we moved there.
Yeah.
Princeton Lounge.
Princeton Lounge. So if I'm coming from
Princeton Station now.
if I'm coming from like Nashua or that way and down and go down Princeton, as soon as I see the old Reform School, what they've done there, that's incredible.
Well, that's under construction now.
But Chelmsford,
Almost 400 housing units.
I couldn't believe how big it was.
Yeah.
I looked, I said, "Oh, look at this place." I hope it's all over 50 type of things, because if that brings children, your schools are going to have problems. Your growth.
It's not age restricted, but a number of those units are set asides for affordable housing. Okay.
Okay.
So we looked at that very, very carefully, and I had a number of conversations with the developer for that, because people were concerned about who's going to move in, how's this going to impact the schools and so on and so forth. And so we did some projections, and it'll be some impact, but it won't be a lot. And people say, well, how do you know? And the answer is you don't know, because you can't predict with 100% certainty who's going to move in. But what we do is we go back and we look at previous building projects in town. And what has happened, historically what's happened, is that every time you get a building project like this, everybody gets upset and says we're going to be overrun with students. And it's never happened, okay? You get some, but you never ever get, what people are afraid you're going to get. So, you have to temper that.
The reason why I feel that way, Sam, is because the people I know that moved to Chelmsford went there for schools. How good your schools do.
Right.
That has to attract people.
Well, it does. If you're looking at single-family homes, or even some on the condo side, but for single-family home ownership, you tend to get the young buyers who have children. Okay, with the apartment type thing, you get either first-time buyers who don't have kids, or you get people who are downsizing from a single-family home whose children are grown, okay? And that's been more often the situation than people in their mid-30s, for example, with a couple of children moving. I mean, you get some of that. I'm not saying you don't get any, but that's not the main demographic that moves into those buildings. We just went through our tax situation, like every city and town has to do in December. The city council or the select board, they set the tax rate, and the assessors get up and they make a presentation and so on and so forth. So in order to get ready for that, we have to understand, what the valuations are and who's living where and so forth. And this particular year, for example, in Chelmsford, what we found was that the value for single-family homes is relatively flat year over year, but the value of condos went up almost 10%. And the value of apartment houses went up almost 9%. So when we looked at those numbers, and we said, that's interesting, because over the last several years, single-family homes have risen much more than that. And of course, my first thought was, well, we've done something wrong. Okay, these numbers aren't right. Thank God my father always taught me, when something, look in the mirror first, and if something's wrong, probably you made the mistake. Okay, that's the way I come at everything. So I thought, well, I'm wrong. I've done something wrong. I called assessors in all of the towns around me. Okay, and they all said the same thing. They said, no, Chase, your numbers are right, because we're seeing the same thing in our community, all right? So what that tells me is people are looking at single-family homes, and they can't, first-time home buyers, for example, they can't afford the single-family homes. So they're shifting to condos and apartments, and that demand has driven up the price and the value of those units. So that's what the numbers showed me, okay?
And that's what's happening in Lowell.
And it's happening in Lowell, because I did talk to the Lowell assessing department. I asked them, I said, I'm not sure I'm doing this right. And they said, no, you're right, and this is what we're seeing. So very, very interesting. But again, looking at this for the last 15 or 20 years that I've been looking at it, when you get people coming into these condos, at least in our area, it's not predominantly families with school-age children. Again, you get some, there is some impact, but it's not the overwhelming impact that the anti-development people always tell you is going to happen, okay? So,
when you live in a city like Lowell,
yeah.
I see all this building going down. I was a contractor for years, just roofing. Now and then I'd take on decks and stuff like that and just pass it to my son, but mainly roofing, and I'd always pull a permit, because if you didn't, it'd stop your job,
Absolutely.
But then you'd see people doing the roof on the weekend when there was no one to enforce the permits, and I never, almost 40 years, I don't think I ever had one person from the building department ever climb up on the roof to see if I was giving the lady the right ice and water shield, to see if I was putting down the right boards on her roof, things like that. And a lot of my friends, he's retired now, West Tewksbury Construction. He couldn't stand working for Lowell Building Department or working with them. But now I'm looking and I'm seeing these buildings going up, and I see the names, like I say, Ryan Rourke, Jimmy Zorbas, Dave Daly, and in the quiet one, Kazanjian, you haven't heard from him too much because he was injured. Broke his neck. He looks great last time I seen him. No one will be, he could build condos more than anyone could dream of. And there's a lot of my neighborhood friends over here, and they're, Cass and Saw and the old A&L Taxi. I think he owns all that.
Now, what's going on now? So you've got all this building going on in Lowell.
Yes, sir.
So let me just take your attention to here, guys. Yeah. This is the electronic Lowell Sun. And you pay for your subscription to the Lowell Sun, so I can read it online. I never realized I can look up a whole year of newspapers.
Oh, yes.
I never knew. I can go back to January of 24 and look up just fascinating stuff.
That is the main benefit, I think, of the online edition, that you can do that.
So a year ago today, geez, this is, I never realized this. So today's the 2nd, and a year ago today, what were we bellyaching about? It'll take a second to come up here. And then you guys can go on to your chit-chat there, but this is a year ago. open meeting law complaints. There we get Corey Robinson on the front page a year ago. There's the then city council. So that's a year ago. Back to you guys.
Yeah, I don't prescribe to the Lowell Sun at all. It's nice. I used to deliver papers.
No, I think it's a pretty cool service.
Yeah, good.
So
You know what I mean?
thanks.
I think things like you do, I call what you do like a blog. Same thing Sam does. I think social media is plenty. When you talk about local, I think we've beaten the paper out. I don't think the paper is,
Well,
to me, the paper's useless.
All you have to do is look at it. So you get on, like John says, you get online. Typically it's 8 pages, okay? Typically, sometimes it's more.
You also got to look in the mirror and say, okay, you guys are forecasting the Lowell Sun's going to be gone. That's what you're really saying. Who's going to keep an eye on City Hall then? Now, let's take a look at New Orleans yesterday.
We already have that problem.
Yeah.
That problem we had with, they killed 15 people. One guy killed 15 people yesterday with his pickup truck in New Orleans. Nobody had the guts to tell the police chief, hey, putting a cruiser in the middle of the street ain't going to do the job. You got to put a bus there. You got to put a dump truck there. You got to put a vehicle that nobody can get by with. Nobody had the guts to tell the police chief that. And yesterday, we're the best at this. No, you're not. Nobody in the crowd said, no, you're not. That fiasco that happened yesterday in New Orleans, absolutely, positively terrible and easily correctable. But when you have a department that doesn't take suggestions, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Back over to you guys, thanks.
You know, I could make him snap in a minute, too.
Go ahead.
No.
Don't do
I just
that.
no, I'm not going to do it, Sam. What I'm going to do is say this. I am very happy with the city council and the mayor right now. Now, there's a few city councilors I want replaced. No doubt. Out of 11, you're always going to have 1 or 2 that you want gone. But we sat on the show, complained about the South Common more than anybody. The show did a lot about that. And look at what the city council did. Started, Eric Gitchia lit the match, but look at the South Common right now is so clean, it's unbelievable. There might be someone there today, I can't tell you without looking, but the problem lies just around the church now. You know, you're not going to get rid of it overnight. I tried to get my sister on the show today. She bought a building, Sam, next to the guy that was on the show, I'm sorry, Dave. The money man, I like that. Aldridge, yeah. I like to call him the money man. He's the one that buys these properties for 18 to 24-year-old females.
You can also buy properties in Westford, too.
Yeah.
A lot more risky and low.
What they really started off at, and it excited me, was this Project Compass. It was for 18 to 24-year-olds, Sam, that have children. They need a spot to stay, learn how to save, learn how to work, and go out on their own. They've done quite a great job.
Sounds
so
good.
now they bought, they have one building in Chelmsford, by the way, Sam, before the railroad tracks, I like to call it, out there in North Chelmsford, the pizza place. Coming up short on the name.
Oh, in Vinyl Square?
No, before you get to Vinyl Square. Middlesex Street, you come out by the church on the left, you come down the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah.
Right
yeah.
there on the left, they bought a really nice home.
Okay.
And they're going to expand that. They're going to have more rooms now because they're moving their offices down on Appleton Street. Right around the section that needs so much work. The South Common, the Poor Owl Diner, Hafner's gas station, all those businesses. It's hard to survive with all the drug traffic that's going on alone.
Bobby, just speaking of the owl, okay, I'm going to bring both you
go
guys
ahead.
into this. Sam, in Chelmsford Center, there's a diner there, and my wife and her girlfriends.
A diner?
One lives in Chelmsford, 2 live in Lowell. So what they do is they, once a month, they go out to breakfast, and we go to breakfast where my girlfriend picks. Make a long story short, they picked Chelmsford Center to go have breakfast. The place is closed.
Roscoe's?
What was the name?
Roscoe's?
Could be. The only one at Chelmsford Center. So that was closed. So then they go up to Brick House. Brick House doesn't open till 11.
Yeah.
So they ended up scooting back into Lowell to go to the Owl.
Well,
And they had a good time with the Owl, and
the Owl's always good. They could have.
good stop.
They could have continued just a little further through the center and gone down Summer Street there's a little strip mall there.
Yeah.
That's my backyard. That strip mall is in my backyard, okay? And there's a great diner there. It's in the strip mall, and the owner is the fellow that used to own Paul's Diner in Westford. I don't know if you know Paul's in Westford.
Yep.
It's still Paul's in Westford, but it's obviously under new management.
I've been to Paul's in Westford twice.
Okay, so the fellow that started Paul's in Westford sold it a couple of years ago, decided I'm getting out of the business. He was out for about 3 months, and he realized how much he missed it. So he said, gee, that was a mistake. I'll start another diner up in Chelmsford. So he got the location on Summer Street, and so he's got his diner, and it's too bad they didn't know about that, because they're very good. They have excellent food. And he's open, whatever it is in the morning.
You don't know the name of the new place?
What's the name of the diner?
It'll come to you later.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But anyway, it's the fellow that owned Paul's Diner, Paul, I guess his name is, and he's done a wonderful situation on Summer Street in Chelmsford, so that's a good place to go.
Well, you're not going to find a better breakfast place anywhere than the Owl.
No, Owl is good. That's the gold standard of diner breakfasts. And a Brick House, you talked about Brick House. Now, again, that's different ownership, and it's the people who had Diggies in Chelmsford, they bought that. So we haven't been in there since, my wife and I have not been in there since they changed ownership, so I don't know what's going on. But you're telling me they don't open until 11?
Well, on the day that my wife and her girlfriends were out there.
Well, that's no good for
actually,
breakfast.
They're 3 doctors of education, brilliant girls, and it's interesting to listen to them talk, because they talk on a different level. I don't understand what they're talking about sometimes. They use big words on me, so I go away.
I know the Brick House out on Middlesex Street, that sold to a Milanazzo and.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, a while back, couple of years back. And
So Mike Brown's out of it altogether?
I'm not sure. I just know.
Because that's where I would see his mother used to work, and see, she's gone to heaven since. But Middlesex Street, his mother was there, get nice fish sandwich out there. But I'd also go to the one in Chelmsford Center. I forget what they call it, but I'd just go to Mike Brown's place in Chelmsford Center.
Yeah, Brick House.
Brick House,
It's
that's
amazing.
delicious.
Oh yeah, and they had breakfast. They had breakfast there.
Well, they didn't always. When
Right.
Charlie Mickle took the thing over, they didn't have breakfast, and then they put in the bike trail, okay, and which goes right by the place, and he started to think, you know what, got the bikers out here in the summertime, you know, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have a breakfast menu. That's how he got the idea, and he started it, and it took off, and they had the reputation of providing enormous amounts of food, okay, for a very, very, very reasonable price. So that caught on. The only problem that Brick House in the center of Chelmsford had was seating capacity.
And they could pack it in.
Yeah, they didn't. It was limited as to what you could get. But
I remember going out there and sitting upstairs.
Yes, they would put you upstairs if
But it was well worth the trip.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But I think most of their business is bar at night, okay?
I'm trying to think of it.
The place is, I don't care what night you go down there, the place is jammed every night.
It's a great
is
place.
jammed, and it's the bar trade, really.
In my lifetime, though, I'd have to say I went to Skip's Diner more than any other place.
I loved that place.
And the secondary place is close to your home. It was Amici's. I don't think they're still there. I don't know. Little Italian place on that strip mall.
In West Concord?
No, behind your house. Amici, is it? A little Italian place on that
Oh,
strip
yeah,
mall.
they're still there.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, they do. They have limited seating, but most of their business,
food's unbelievable.
most of their business, Bob, is takeout catering. Okay, that's where they get most of their revenue. So, if you're going to put on a party and you don't want to do your own cooking, you go to Amici's, and they
good
have
stuff.
My daughter always goes to Amici's for stuff. She's throwing a party. She'll go there and get. They have very, very good food. But if you go there, you won't ever see more than 2 or 3 people sitting in eating, because mostly it's takeout stuff.
Yeah, but growing up, though,
Yeah.
like to me, and I go back to that name, Bob White's, Skip's Diner. Those two.
I loved Skip's.
That's all.
The old-fashioned greasy spoon. Now, when I grew up in Concord, we had a Skip's Diner-like place. It was called the Willow Pond Kitchen. Same thing, greasy spoon, you know, meatloaf, gravy, mashed potatoes, peas, that kind of thing.
Why don't you change that to Yummy Spoon?
Oh my God, we used to love that place, the Willow Pond Kitchen. So I think every town or city had a place like that at some point, you know. So
I thought it was my
I think it's me.
glucose numbers.
It could be Evelyn. Let's check.
No, Evelyn can call. No, but she's probably laying in bed watching us on Zoom or something. So I got two comments from the audience. Good morning. The South Common is cleaned out of the homeless, but the problem didn't go away. That's from Jay.
Yeah.
Moving right along here. The Owl Diner didn't move in the area. That area has had hookers, drugs for over 40 years.
It should.
Look at, buddy, I've been living here for 70 years, okay? And occasionally we have the ladies of the night hanging out. Not really a problem. The big problem was the homeless. They're just plain scary. They're scary to look at. They didn't bother anybody physically. Once in a while there'd be a skirmish with a homeless person. But basically they frighten the daylights out of your wife. And happy wife, happy life. And if she says, we ain't going there, I'm scared, you're not going to go there. And but I don't know any wife that was ever afraid of as you call them, hookers. I don't know anybody who's ever afraid of a hooker. And they're pretty much non-existent now. I don't know where they are now, but I disagree with you about the hookers. It's not a bad neighborhood. You can walk over there now. Big difference.
Yeah, I think the comment is correct, though. It was like that for years. It was a town that people came here for prostitution or drugs. Prostitution has left. John's right. If there is any, it's someone that's really addicted real bad to fentanyl.
Well, maybe Jim knows.
Listen.
Maybe Jim knows where the hookers are.
Well,
Jim, why do you know this?
Until you put your boots on the ground and go through these campsites and talk to people and watch them cook their food, and you're sitting with them and you give escorts. Rebecca Duda, does anybody know her?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, she's on the school committee over there in Drake. And one day she called me. She said, I'm looking for somebody, some missing person. Can you help me? I want to go through that campsite. I walked right through with her. She couldn't believe it. You have to be down there. Those that are, like if you go by the river, Merrimack River, and you look across, if you're on the Pawtuckaville side and you look across, you see all the blue tents that go right up into North Chelmsford. Those aren't the homeless that are causing any grief. I mean, most of the time when the trees are at full bloom, they're out of sight, they're out of mind. You don't see them. Now you're going to see them. You're going to see more there. Why? Because they cleaned up a spot that's near a school. That's the ordinance. 1,000 feet, you cannot have a tent near a school. Now the school right behind Sam and I, there's 1,000, almost 1,000. I think that number's there now, 1,000 children. It's not a small school. That's as big as a lot of high schools. And it wasn't good. The back door is where we make all our food, and it's just 20 feet away, you're finding hypodermic needles. Come on.
Bobby, this is from John Curtis. There's a brick house on Lakeview Ave, right across from CVS, near Mammoth Road. They have some of the best pizza in the area. I have not tried that place yet, but thank you, John.
Yeah, I did. They have great meatball, too. I love the meatballs there. But no, I like when you show that picture. You show the old Thorndike Factory Outlet. I love when I see that because when
that's for the flag today. The flag is really whipping.
Yeah.
33 degrees outside, so if you're going to go out for a jog, you're going to be chilly.
Yeah, I just went over to that building there to get some Chinese food a couple of days ago. Unbelievable.
The kids are still out of school until next. Are they going back to school today?
Yeah.
And the Lowell goes back today?
Yeah. Yeah, they got to go back.
Chelmsford doesn't go back till Monday.
So if little Sam's going out the door to school today, why don't you give little Sam a ride to school? Bobby can walk.
Yeah, I got to ride my granddaughter Charlie and my grandson to school today.
It's cold. It's cold. 33 degrees with that wind whipping like that, give your kid a little ride to school.
Well, there's a big snowstorm coming that's going to hit Washington, D.C. It's going to miss us up here.
Well, how about the hide under the bed rain we're supposed to have over the weekend? What happened to that?
I just been watching the snow. We don't get that much snow anymore. The past couple of years, we've been pretty lucky.
I'm happy.
I feel bad for the people that have to plow, make a living off plowing, because you're not going to see a whole lot of snow.
Well, this year it looks like, so far you're right, but it looks like the snow belt is just a little bit north, so the people who rely on skiing for income, they're going to be okay.
They're going to do good.
Seems they've gotten quite a bit of snow so far, so that works out well for them.
But these weather forecasters, they really have it down to a science now, huh?
You know, you're right, and I get aggravated because say, well, you know, it's a little up. Let me tell you something. We're old enough to remember when the weather forecasts really weren't that accurate, okay? Mm-hmm. And today, again, yes, they do miss occasionally because the weather can change instantaneously, okay? But I watch the weather quite a bit, and I tell you, these guys, within 15 to 20 minutes, they can predict the start of a rainstorm. Now, they could not do that 50 years ago, okay? Yeah. You remember.
Yeah.
They couldn't even come close. But now they'll say, well, by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you should be seeing rain. And sure enough, you look out the window, and at 10 minutes past 4, it's raining, right? And you say, wow. And I think the difference is radar. All right, they years ago they didn't use radar to help with the weather projections, but now they do.
It's supposed to be cold. It's
well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's going to get colder next week.
All right, and you know, and it's the jet stream. You have to follow what the jet stream does, and then you'll be able to predict whether it's going to be cold or warmer or whatever. So, yeah, my whole thing is if we get through January.
Yeah, you're all set.
You're all set, because by the time February 1st rolls around, your sun now is a little bit more direct in the sky. So even if you do get snow, it's not going to hang around as long. The worst thing is a big storm at the end of November, and then another one like the second week of December, and then that stuff hangs around forever, okay? But snow in February, that's fine. We can deal with that.
I remember that blizzard of '78. I was in Colorado. That's where I was. I was in the Army at the time.
That was rough.
And we sent help to the state.
Sure.
Equipment to help plow you out. That was a pretty bad year.
That was very unusual in two ways. Number one, the quantity of snow that fell, but usually what happens in Massachusetts is west of 495 is where you get most of your accumulation, and as you get to the coast, it's less. That storm, it was the opposite. They had more snow in Boston than they did in Fitchburg. And how do I know that? Because at the time I was living and working in Fitchburg. So we got hit pretty hard in Fitchburg.
Isn't Fitchburg higher elevation?
Yes, and that's what made it so unusual, because that out there you got the higher elevation, you typically get a lot more snow.
My girlfriend in college, my now wife, she lived in Fitchburg, so I used
to
there
you go.
Fitchburg a lot. The weather people in this state fearmonger and push climate change with zero evidence. That's from Jim. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I think his name's Jim.
Yeah, I had a habit, 40-year, of shingling, okay? So every morning I'd look out and say, okay, it looks good today. But as I got older, my grandfather said, before you go to bed, about 10 o'clock, look outside. If you see a lot of stars out, prepare to work in the morning.
Yeah, you're gonna
That's
be okay.
the way he lived his life.
Yeah.
I kind of watched that, and it's true. If it's later, the better, obviously. But at midnight, if you see a lot of stars in the sky, should have a
That's
nice
right.
day.
Clear night is a good indication of a good day to follow.
But it's so important to know when the rain's coming, because you can get really in trouble if you have a roof open. And I've seen people leave roofs open. Right here on Gorham Street, for years it was open. Then they close it up and sell the condos. It's not a big deal. It's, but the building department in Lowell has changed. Let me get back to that for a minute.
Yep.
They've made it so builders want to build here. They want to come here. Maybe Mr. Kazanjian will start to open up, and we won't have too much of a problem finding places for people to live.
Now, what about land? So I'm a developer, and I come in and
Jumping back to the weather for a second.
Yeah.
This is national. If this is free on your computer, this is live radar
Oh, yeah.
of the United States of America, and you just zoom in on any part you want, and it's not rocket science. You can just say, okay, where's Massachusetts? Way down here. Those storms have nothing to do with us. They're already gone by. And we got some incoming stuff out here, and we'll see when that's way out in Albany, New York.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just anybody can go on that and take a look at what the live radar is. But what's it going to look like tomorrow? That's what we pay the forecaster to do.
Well, if
and
you
they
go-
embellish their forecast, making you hide under the bed weather.
Well,
Listening to you.
You know what? I actually have to agree with you on that. And I made that comment about 3 years ago, and people made fun of me when I made it. I said, the weather is being, just like every other piece of news out there, they sensationalize the weather. And, you know, if it's January, like Bob said, or the commenter said, it's supposed to be cold. All right, it's supposed to snow. I mean, this is something that we grow up with. And you turn on the weather, and they project a snowstorm. Well, this isn't going to be a snowstorm. It's a weather event. It's an impactful weather event. Come on, fellas. It's a snowstorm, okay? This is New England, okay? It's supposed to snow. Tell us about the snowstorm. Tell us that you think it's going to be X number of inches, whatever. But let's stop with the drama. You're scaring people half to death.
They throw in the word historic.
And it's ridiculous, okay? Just report the weather, okay? It's not a weather event. It's not something that we all have to get scared over and hunker down and come on. And if you feel that way, then move to Florida, okay? That's the way I look at it. You know, if you don't want to put up with the snowstorms, then go to Florida.
This Jimbo guy is fired up. Did he put his sawbuck in a bucket? I don't know what that means.
Who's Jimbo?
I'm going to guess he's... I don't know, but...
Oh, you mean the Jim who comments?
Might have fired him up.
Okay, all right. I think that's, yeah.
What does the sawbuck in a bucket mean?
A sawbuck is $25, right?
No, I think a
sawbuck
sawbuck is $10, right?
Okay.
A C note's $100.
I'll go ask Google.
A sawbuck might be
$10, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's either $5 or $10. Check it out, John. A sawbuck might be $5.
Yeah.
Although maybe with
duck,
inflation
duck, go.
it's 10. I don't know.
You know,
What's favorite?
when I started the show off there, I said local politics is where it's at. And,
Yep, you're absolutely right.
and that's what I look at, and I just see a lot of positive stuff. I really do. The
that's
police
good.
department in Lowell, we wanted the South Common cleaned up. There's no doubt the big part of it was the police being there. I watched it day after day. They had some policemen on that area, and they stopped the tents from going up. And, of course, they went over and cleaned the place over near Dutton Street, which was an encampment that had an incredible amount of trash. They cleaned that up. And, yes, they're moving into spots that are better than being around a school. And they've helped a few people out. Not many. Not many have taken help, but the mayor and the city council has had buses for them, helping them, trying to keep them warm. What more can we do? 4 people took help.
Well,
They took the help.
In the United States, we ignore mental illness.
No, we do, but
That's why New Orleans happened yesterday. A sawbuck is a $10 bill.
Yeah.
There you go.
And a picture of a sawbuck is this thing right here. I never knew that they actually had a picture of a sawbuck. And
great
I guess-
thing. Yeah, great tools. Yeah.
ever see one of these? I never knew it was a sawbuck. We draw it into the screen.
I have one.
You have a sawbuck?
Yes, I do.
There you go.
You know what? I never knew that that's what it was called, though.
Now
So
we know.
now I've learned something. Okay.
And did you get a $2 Trump bill yet? They have that out there.
Oh, really? I haven't
Yeah.
seen that.
Yeah, $2 Trump bill. They're selling them. Probably for 50. They got a sweatshirt out there.
There's a sucker born every minute, isn't there?
Oh, my God.
Who would pay $50 for it?
A good friend of mine, I won't say his name, he knows John and I, actually in the Monday night dinner club, so I brought it down to about 10 people. He threw something out there the other day saying, wait till you see how much homeless goes up with Trump. Listen, the match has been lit. It's not Trump's fault. It's not. It's local people, state issues like our governor. That's who has to do it. Mental health was taken away from this state by a governor. Now, if we want mental health back to the way it was, and I agree we need it, all of them, they've wiped out mental health hospitals. And most of your real mental health issues are in your prisons now. That's what happened.
That makes sense.
You were U.S. Army. How dumb were some of the guys?
Not as dumb as people want to put them up to be.
No, and
listen,
that's exactly right.
I wanted to go back to that. I don't know. I hope I have time. When Sam went in, there was a draft.
Yep.
I was in my basic training in June of 1975. The war just ended in May of 75, 1 month. I was in training, and my head was, I'm going to Vietnam because that's when I signed up. Vietnam was still going on. It ended.
In your day, how did they treat the mentally ill?
In the Army?
Well, mentally ill. All I can say as a prison guard, I didn't know how to deal with people with mental health problems.
Okay, Sam, what's your take on it? How does the Army treat mentally ill?
First of all, they generally don't get in, but if they do squeak in, they're cashiered out. They don't keep them.
So they just kick them out. They don't treat them.
Well, you remember I had
that's wrong. Okay, I got a couple of texts I'm going to put out here. They also drive around in big gas guzzling trucks showing us where it's snowing. They then tell us that electric vehicles are better for the environment.
They're talking about the news media.
Yep. Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube is the best weather guy in the country. Bernie Lynch, when he was the city manager, we used to play the weather a little bit. I'd say, Bernie, what's your favorite weather? And I'd play the weather forecast during the break. And Bernie says, I go on my phone. I don't watch weather. And since that day, I go on my phone. Works pretty good.
Yeah, I have that app. And to your point, you were talking about it earlier. You say, what do you want? If you have that app, you can scroll forward, and they'll give you like a 10-day projection out. So you can get that information from that app as well. Now, very useful. I use it all the time.
All I watch is Homestead Rescue, Gold Rush, anything on Discovery. That's the channel. If I'm watching TV, that's what I watch. Other than that, I'm watching college football right now, which is pretty exciting to watch. After
the break, we got Karen Casella got sworn in yesterday, so I got some pictures of her getting sworn in. And Terry Hung, he got sworn in yesterday. So
they did it actually on the holiday?
Yeah,
really?
The law is January 1st.
Okay.
And in Lowell, we ignore the laws because, we don't count up here at Lowell. We were special. But the State House, January 1st.
That's true. I got a note from Simon Cataldo telling me he'd been sworn in. So you're right. Yeah.
So good for them. So we've got 60 seconds, or do you want to go break? You want coffee now? What do you want?
I could use a coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go to break now. We'll see you in a minute or so. Thanks.
Good morning, welcome to City Life. I'm Bob Hoey today, the host. And sitting next to me, Sam Chase, Chasing the Facts. He has his own show if you want to look that up. And Evelyn Thoren is off today, and they made me the host, so I'm kind of excited because the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks, we have a lot of negative stuff to talk about. I mean, we could talk about New Orleans, but I've had a lot of close friends that lost their mothers. I had another close friend that lost their son. There's nothing worse than burying one of your own children. I mean, my heart goes out to all of you, and I'm praying for your family, and God bless you. That's all I can say. The people in New Orleans, 15 of them have been killed by a maniac. Our prayers and our thoughts go out to you also. It's just not a good time of the year to stop this type of stuff. But I think America's going to have to face the facts that this is going to come, Sam. This type of stuff we're going to see more and more if we don't do a little bit more as far as security goes. Spend some dough on protecting ourselves against China and everything else. And how many days, Sam? 19 for our new president?
Yes, January 20th is the inaugural, so
yeah,
12 o'clock noon, and I've watched many of these, and it's pretty precise. I mean, they have that planning right down to the absolute detail. So the idea is that the president-elect is supposed to be taking the oath of office starting at 12 noon. So that's an interesting thing. So if something happens at 11:30 in the morning on Inauguration Day, Joe Biden is still the president, and he would have a half hour. He would have to act. Okay, so it's just I find the whole thing. It's just a very interesting dynamic, to watch that. Transfer of power.
I have a real good friend that's in New Orleans, and of course, what do you think of right away? Oh, I hope it's not my friends, but I'm hoping nobody. But it's scary times. It's I wouldn't want to be at the Sugar Bowl now. I wouldn't want to be there around crowds. I wouldn't want to be at New York City watching the ball drop. Why would you? To me, it's crazy. We're going to have to start looking over your shoulder constantly.
It is crazy because, you'd like to, as an American citizen, you'd like to feel, well, I can go any place in the country and feel relatively safe and secure. But I find myself now, and I watch the news, and I see events like this or just the daily problems that you have in the large urban areas. And you're very sympathetic to what's going on, but the first thought that always goes through my mind is, why would anybody go there, right? I mean, when you see what's, you understand that, we have tremendous trouble over in the Middle East, and yet people are traveling to the Middle East. Well, that's the last place I want to go, and maybe I'm a chicken. I don't know, but I don't deliberately want to go to places where there is a large potential of trouble. Not doing that. So you won't find me traveling to those spots anytime soon.
And that's why, Sam, when I sit with you, and even on Tuesday, when I come in here and try to prepare myself, what are you going to talk about today? And I didn't come in here thinking I was the host. When I know you're here, I said Sam will be the host. I could just follow his lead.
Oh, I think this is wonderful.
Well, I could just follow his lead.
You should be the host. But, I mean, you're here more than anybody.
Well, I'd rather have you talk about when it comes to money and numbers, because I look at people telling me what my house is worth, Sam. Listen, I look at it and I say, oh, maybe I could go borrow some money on my house. But when I look at my mortgage rate being so low, I ain't going to touch it. I tell my wife, don't touch it. We got a little bit more to pay, and then we'll be all set. Don't worry about it. Well, we're not going to be all set. Property taxes, to me, Sam, are going up.
Hey, did Biden sign the Social Security thing, or did anybody know?
Pardon?
Did Biden sign the new Social Security thing?
He said he would, so I don't know whether he did.
I think it expired 31st. Latest text. Great statement, Bob. We can only hope that Mr. Trump will clean things up, but unfortunately you can't help out people who have hate in their heart. That's from Jay.
Yeah, to that statement, this is all I'm hoping for. As soon as Trump takes over, just get the hostages back. That's one thing. Just get them back. Somehow, some way, step in between Israel and the rest of this and get this one stopped.
Yeah.
The other one will stop. Russia and Ukraine's going to stop because they'll basically destroy the whole country. if they don't stop. So I think Trump will be able to negotiate a deal to get them to stop. But the one about Israel, Sam?
Yep.
I'm not sure that's going to be the easy one. That's a holy war in my eyes.
Yeah, well, you're fighting centuries worth of the way people think, okay? So you're right, that's a different situation. You know, people have wanted to kill the Jews for years, and that's the overriding mentality that's driving that. So
if he can get those hostages back and put a little heat with Israel, because that's what makes me feel secure. Being ex-military and knowing the world, I know North Korean soldiers, I met Israel, people from Israel, soldiers, they used to come and cross-train into Colorado. We were talking about it, the draft. I'd love to talk another minute on that for a second.
It's not the New York City of
You're
the
the
90s.
host.
It's more like the New York City of the 70s. New York City can be a scary place.
yes,
But just like I tell my friends who are going to come to Boston, do yourself a favor. Don't carry your pocketbook. Leave it in the freaking hotel room. Lock your money in the safe. Keep 50 or $100 in cash, 10s and 20s in your pocket. One credit card, no hanging jewelry. And you'll have a wonderful time in Boston. You'll have a wonderful time in New York. But if you're going to walk around with your Gucci bag and hanging your jewelry off your neck, you're a target. So one of these homeless people is going to attack you and steal your stuff and ruin your trip. So just leave your bag at home. Thanks.
You know, Sam was drafted, and there was a lot of people that I remember being drafted, and I was the first, not the first class, I think I was the second of an all-volunteer army.
God love it.
Totally different game.
I was drafted.
Right, and that's why when I told you I couldn't make it in high school, the Army would take me in. Think of that issue alone. We don't do that anymore. Why wouldn't you want to take a person that's struggling in school and bring them into your Army? Because all they did was make me as a grunt. It was called an 11B-10 infantry. And when you go to bed at night, your wallet and your cash would be down in your underdrawers between your cheeks. If not, you got it ripped off. You got to know how to live inside barracks with a bunch of people that are grunts. Believe me, you'd get in fights on who's cleaning the toilets. It was incredible, the life that I lived.
And that, folks, was when you had an all-volunteer situation. Imagine what it was like with draftees.
That's my point.
Because we were talking a little bit before the show.
Latest comment,
Yeah.
This administration has failed the American people from start to finish. I'm still waiting to find out whose cocaine it was in the White House. You're never going to find. Good point.
Well,
Yeah, well, you think that issue there alone, we know what happens on the border. Fentanyl at one time was almost $20 a pill. It's like a cigarette, Sam, at Concord Prison. At one time, a cigarette,
Oh, yes,
when
money.
I left, was
Just like-
worth
yeah.
$20 a cigarette.
Yep. You use it like money.
Fentanyl right now you can get for $1, maybe $2. That's how bad it's getting, because the borders are wide open. In
Right.
America, we're better than that. Our military, if I was ever in charge, my military would be laying right across my borders. Both of them. I'd have military all over the place. Where are we? All over the world. That's where we are. We're all over the world, but except our own borders.
Well, I think you have to understand, it really, in my opinion, and again, this is an opinion show, it's just my opinion. But I like to think that my opinion is based somewhat in facts, because I do pay attention to what's going on, and I try to keep up and read and so forth. We started down this path with the election of President Obama, and you have to remember that when Obama was elected, and I've said this before, and I know people don't like it when I say it, but I will give the man very high marks for his honesty, because he did not try to hide what he was. During his campaign, he said, "We are going to fundamentally transform America." He said that, okay? He wasn't one of these politicians that said one thing and then when he got in he tried to do a bunch of different stuff. No, he said what he was going to do, and when he got in he tried to do it. Okay, so high marks to President Obama for his honesty. He told us, okay? But my point is that he followed through, and his entire administration, he tried to fundamentally transform America, and that started with the mindset of American exceptionalism, which...
What is that?
Well, I'll tell you. When Bob and I were in school, and when you were in school, you went to parochial school, so I hope they taught you this too, but Bob and I were in the public schools. One of the things that they tried to do was instill a baseline of patriotism. You know, every morning we stood up and we saluted the flag.
Right after World War II.
And
yeah.
exactly. All right. So I mean, this was the mindset, and the notion always that was America was a special place because, in large part, of our Constitution that emphasized individual liberty and freedom. Okay, there aren't too many governing documents in the world like the U.S. Constitution, and this is how we were brought up to believe. When President Obama came in, he promoted the idea, and he did it throughout his administration, that America is not an exceptional place. We are just another country, okay? We are no better really than any other country and no worse than any other country, although he did try to promote the idea that in some cases we were worse, because a lot of his philosophy was a lot of the bad things that happened in the world are because of what Americans did and what America did philosophically throughout, you know, in foreign relations and so forth. So it started there, this idea that the country isn't that good, okay, or that we've done a lot of things wrong and we need our comeuppance, okay? And that's when it started. It started in the Obama administration, and then Trump is elected in 2016. And regardless of what you think about Trump, in my opinion, Trump basically is an America first president, okay? Put the country first. Yes, we are an exceptional country, blah, 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 blah. And he tried to reverse some of that thinking and was met with tremendous amounts of resistance, okay? And then he's voted out of office, and then we get Joe Biden. Now, what happens with Joe Biden is that he runs as a centrist because he knows that, please let me finish my thought, he knows...
Rambling, buddy.
Well, I think this is important. He knows that if you're a far-left radical, you can't get elected to anything. So he campaigns as a centrist, gets elected, and then moves the country even further left than the Obama people were doing, okay? That's what happened. What you had this last election was a reaction to that. Most Americans are not progressive leftists. They are center slight rightists. That's where most Americans are, and that's what they voted for with Trump. Regardless of what you think of the guy, that's what they voted for.
Moving on to Karen Casella's
right.
sworn in yesterday, and I got some
You did good too.
Okay.
pictures. Well, I got comments coming in on what you're talking about, Sam, but I got to put these
Pay
pictures
attention.
up. I got to put these pictures up, and I don't have to. I want to put these pictures up. So congratulations.
Good for her.
A nice picture of Karen Casella yesterday getting sworn in down, or waiting to get sworn at the State House. And I'm going to go through some of her pictures here. I don't know who these folks are, but there's Karen and her husband right there. And I'm going to guess these are other people who got sworn in yesterday.
Could be.
But I don't know.
Probably some family and supporters too, right?
Could be. And then we got her getting sworn in with her colleagues here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. Yesterday, that's a beautiful building, the State House. I'm going to draw it down a little bit so you can see.
Yeah, we were there 2 weeks ago, actually.
Were you? Okay.
Yep.
But beautiful building. Look at all the artwork and beautiful. They're still getting sworn at the State House. Fantastic. Look at this. Gigantic stuff. Great stuff.
Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful hall that they meet in, too. Yeah, very nice.
Looks like the Eddie Kennedy here. I think that's the Kennedys right here, but I'm not sure. It's just the back. And that's the back on... back.
Well, congratulations to Karen. I think...
Smart woman. Congratulations. And
yeah. It's good. It's good. Well, in effect, she got a promotion, and I think it's good to see somebody who worked for years in that office and who worked very hard.
Oh, you got it.
And she now has been promoted, and I commend the voters really for recognizing that.
Sam,
you know,
she sent me a text message as soon as she was sworn in, and all it read was, "I'm in." And I saying, I'm in.
And that's a 6-year term, right?
Yeah, she wasn't telling me she was being sworn in.
Yeah.
She said, I'm in. And I wrote back to her, just remember one thing, you deserve it.
Here's
Period.
Tara,
I think
Tara
so.
hung up, State Rep Tara hung up on the Highlands.
Yep.
He got sworn in
They
as
all got
well.
sworn in.
And this comes off of So Paul Penn's page. And he took these pictures.
Now there's Mr. Elliott.
Rodney Elliott got sworn in too. And there is Carla? No, she's not Carla.
Vanna Howard.
Vanna Howard, yeah. And those are the three of the musketeers from the city. Don't we have one more?
No, you got a senator.
Those are our three, yeah.
And then you have
Those are our three
Ed
state
as a
reps.
senator.
And lovely, that's our Lowell delegation.
Hey, we have 3 in Chelmsford, and we're not as big as Lowell. How does that work?
I really like the one you picked up, though, Cataldo.
Oh, he's good.
Yeah.
Good guy. Yep.
So I'm just going to finish going through Sol Paul Peck's
Yeah.
pile of pictures here. Nice job. Thanks for doing that. Looks great.
Who took the pictures?
Guy by the name of Sol Paul Penn. That's his
There you
name
go.
up there.
Okay. He's the photographer.
Yeah, he
Well,
takes...
it's his Facebook page I'm taking these off of. And see if we got more pictures here. And that's the last one. Yeah. Okay. And then I got one of with Vesna down at the State House. Where is he? Nope. That's not it. Scroll down. Oh, there it is. Okay. This one's what
That's
Rodney.
Rodney.
But we'll get back into those texts in a minute or so. But I don't know what's going on. I'm going to turn the sound up here. I got to shut the music off. Oh, come on. Everything's bothering me today. Where is Mr. Music? Shut this off. Pull that up. Okay. This is 43 seconds long. I'll put the sound up. You guys can.
Obviously.
The State House yesterday.
Ở Lô Lục Xoay ở lời ní cứ bị thi bao ca cho bị thi cắn vào đầm này nó bao chụp lại cả hơi right here. Ini kunci api baru ada. Ayo,
She thinks she's the next president.
Sorry.
I don't think so. That's what she thinks.
They're going back. Okay, ពិធីបត់ចូលកណ្ដាលអំណាចចាប់ផ្ដើមហើយបាទបាទឥឡូវយូរនៅខាង What do you think? We walking by, right? We got great. Hey, how you doing? Good, how are you? I see you, yep.
I was walking around the State House yesterday, swearing-in ceremonies for all the state reps and state senators. I haven't seen Eddie Kennedy yet.
អបអរសាទរនៅខាងក្រៅ chamber បាទ
So they had such a crowd that you had to watch a TV outside there. That's pretty cool. See the TV where a crowd sitting.
We would like to introduce a couple of former members who are here. Angelo Scott, Hyde Park, here. Jim Brett,
So going back to you guys. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having those videos up there, and congratulations to all the new state reps. Good luck to them down there at the State House. Like I said, all the politics are right here in the city. Local politics. And as far as this person right here is concerned, it's an opinion show. This mayor and this city council, not all of them, but are doing a real good job as far as homeless go. They're out trying to help them. That's all.
Good.
Even though they don't want the help, I mean, they're out there offering help. To me, that's huge. The police should get a pat on the back for cleaning up the South Common so quick, even though it's the DPW that cleans all the trash. The police presence wiped them out. There was no tents on the South Common for the past couple of weeks, almost a month now, I believe.
So where did they go?
To other places, probably moving up near the riverways, you know, and spots that are more out of sight, out of mind type of thing. But near school, Sam, is especially this school that's right behind us on the TV camera. That's where all the food comes out of, that school right there. 1,000 students. The back's not secured. It's not secured. Not that the homeless are going to invade that school, but if you did a few rounds of the property yourself, you'd see how close a hypodermic needle is to our schools. And the motion that Eric Gitchia put in, the new ordinance, was 1,000 feet, you can't put a tent up near a school. It's a great idea. And it's not like they're just going down and ripping the camps out. You should see the trash, and I'll get numbers for the next show. How much did it cost us to clean that mess? I was saying $50,000 to $100,000 over near Dutton Street and the Dunkin' Donuts, and right across from the new courthouse. It was an incredible amount of trash that was left there. And the majority of it is just trash. A lot of needles all over the place. You can find needles. It's simple. But there might have been 40 propane tanks and
Moving on, I got a bunch of announcements I'm going to barge in here with. Edwin King, he sent us this. If you respect the U.S. Army, all gave some gave all. Press the thumb. So good point, Ed. My gripe about the Army is they ignore the mentally ill just like all the governments do. That's my big gripe with them. But thank you for that comment. Moving right along here, we're going to go to this guy. And now I go, where are all the messages? All right, you guys chatter for a sec. I got to get these messages ready.
Yeah, well, you know, when I hear negative things said about the Army and they don't do anything for the mental health, well, all I know that they took a person like myself that had a lot of baggage from a divorce, from a family that started very young. My mother was 16 when she had me. It's almost impossible to keep a family together. The Army took me in like family. Discipline, no doubt about it. I had hair past my shoulders. They ripped me off.
Oh, I'd like to have seen that.
They ripped me.
Any pictures of that?
I'd like to see that.
They ripped me off a cattle truck. This is the first time I met my drill sergeants. By the head of the hair, ripped me out of the truck onto the ground, and you knew you were in a different world. But don't forget, they were trying to train me at Fort Polk, Louisiana, to go to Vietnam. And then I knew my grandmother was watching over me from up above, and the war ended before I got out of the AIT. And I went to Colorado for 3 years. So God was good to me in life, believe me.
AIT stands for either Advanced Individual Training or Advanced Infantry Training, depending on your MOS. MOS is Military Occupational Specialty.
Yeah. I went in at 255 pounds.
Like it or not, I'm going to do these comments.
Go ahead.
Okay. Obama was a great orator. He could deliver a speech and sell an idea no matter how bad or how good it was.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
Moving right along, a grand slam, Sam.
It rhymes.
That's tough for me to say that with my mouth. Grand slam, Sam. He became Obama incredibly rich in a country he wanted to fundamentally change. He's a bad person. Well, he did. I'm sure he did the best he could.
I'm not prepared to say that he's a bad person. Not prepared to say that.
I find it funny that Barack, Joey, the Bushes, Bill, will be at the inauguration of Trump after they called him Hitler for the last 4 years.
Yeah. They'll also all be at Carter's funeral, which is scheduled for the 9th, I believe.
Yeah, every undertaker will be glued to the TV. We love to watch presidential funerals.
Oh, I'll watch it.
A lot of pomp and circumstance and get some pretty good ideas.
It'll be in the National Cathedral, which is beautiful.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll have the usual funeral procession, though. But, okay, going on to I'm going to finish up the text first. I usually agree with Sam on more things than his co-host, but not with his take on Obama, someone who I never voted for. Obama did and does love America, while Trump loves himself.
Can I jump in?
I'm almost finished.
All right, go ahead.
Never forget that it's President Obama who permanently eliminated bin Laden. Okay, Sam.
I never said that Obama didn't love the country, okay? What I said was that what I was trying to imply anyway, was that he believes that the idea of American exceptionalism is flawed, okay? That's what I was saying. Obama, I believe, and that's why I said a minute ago, I'm not prepared to say that Obama is a bad person. I don't think he is a bad person. I think he has a different view of what he thinks the country should be, okay? That's the point. And if I didn't get that across, I'm sorry. I did not mean to say that he hated the country. He doesn't like the idea of American exceptionalism, and he certainly gave plenty of evidence during his term that he thought a lot of the problems in the world were caused by how America has acted in foreign policy situations.
Going on to the next text. Yeah. Look at the opulence of the State House building. Do they have illegal aliens doing the maintenance?
No.
You could eat off the floor.
Yes, you can.
While the homeless pile up. Mm-hmm. Interesting comment.
It is beautiful. They do maintain it beautifully.
That's the last text for right. I got more coming in, but I'll put them up in a few minutes. Thanks.
If you haven't been to the State House, I recommend that you go, and it's very easy to do. Contact your local state rep. If you live in Lowell, there's 3. I'm sure they'll be glad to help you. Drake it, talk to Colleen Geary. Chelmsford, we have our 3, and they will surely be happy to help you with that. You should visit the State House. Everybody should.
You know, if Evelyn was here, I'd be bringing things up because she tends to keep me thinking about Chelmsford on Thursdays. And right now I'm saying to Chelmsford, beware of Lowell High wrestling again. Just beware. We've been down the past few years. Even the Greater Lowell Technical High School could come in and beat Lowell, but Lowell right now is off to a great year. We just celebrated having George Bossy as a 60-year coach for the Lowell High wrestling team.
How old is he?
My guess, somewhere between 84 and 87, and I'm just guessing. I'm not sure.
So what you're saying is Belichick retired too early.
George Bossy, you'll probably never forget. But what Lowell has done is created a, how do I want to put this, a feeder program. We only had really Doughboy, that Doughboy wrestling on Lincoln Street for years. That was the main feeder program. But now the middle schools of Lowell had a wrestling tournament for the 7th and 8th grade, or 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, girls included. And
girls wrestling?
Oh, girls wrestling's bigger than you ever could dream of. I never thought
know about that.
Yeah, it's growing to a good amount. And the team that won in Lowell was the Sullivan School. But to me, it's a little bit not fair because the coach that they have there, his name's Kevin Sheehan. Not only is he at least a one-time Teacher of the Year award, he's also a person that knows how to wrestle, okay? He has a couple of nephews. If it wasn't for Kevin Sheehan, I don't think Brian Sheehan would have won 4 state titles. Think of that, 4. And then he had an older brother, Patrick, that wrestled out in Nebraska. And it all comes from Kevin Sheehan. So congratulations to the Sullivan School that got negative press for years. But this should be an eye-opener for, I don't know who your wrestling coach is in Chelmsford anymore, because you had a person the same way that was there forever. Wrestling coach, football coach, help me out.
It was Bruce Rich.
Bruce Rich, another great coach.
Oh, he was, yes. He was
even in softball.
Very, very good. And a good person, too.
Yeah.
Good person. Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. The Lowell schools that did that, it was incredible. And the other schools, I feel bad that I'm not complimenting you, but you know why the Sullivan School is going to win. They have that type of coach. He's from George Bossy, and he's been coaching his own nephews for years.
60 years.
Yeah, 60 years. So it was a big thing in Lowell. We have the Bossy tournament that's held at the arena in Lowell High School, so it was just incredible. And I missed it all this year. I had other things I had to do, but I normally follow wrestling quite a bit, and watch out. That's all. And then our basketball team just won the tournament there, and Haverhill was involved, and my cousin's the coach of Haverhill. So Lowell's coming back. Be careful.
That's good.
Be careful, yeah.
I mean, I've always advocated for a strong athletic program in the schools because it's like a lot of other things. It's like a strong program in the arts. A lot of kids are there for that reason. Your athletics are keeping kids interested in school, you know. If you didn't have those programs, it would be more difficult, I think, to have the kids.
I'm putting this picture up of Eddie
school.
Kennedy because I went to his page.
Yep.
I can't find any swearing-in pictures because I got a text, where's Eddie Kennedy's page? And
Very simple.
no pictures up yet, so I'll have to talk.
Yeah,
to my
I like
friend
his sign because
Dominic.
the sign is simple and straightforward, isn't it? It's easy to read.
And you can use it on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Good sign. Oh, I think that was part of the thing, is the green, obviously, Irish and so forth. So, yep, congratulations to Ed.
Well, the person that ran against him, Carla Miller, Chelmsford person, I believe, right?
And North Chelmsford, right.
She's coming in the 27th.
She did a really good job
I think with
running
you guys.
against him.
She's coming with you guys on
Without much,
Tuesday.
without much support
The
financially.
Republican Party in this state's almost impossible to win.
Well, there's no money. They don't have any money. That's the problem, you know. No people, no money. That's very tough for a Republican to get elected in this state to anything. I think they actually lost a couple of seats this time around. I think they're down to, was it 24 people in the legislature and only 4 in the Senate? Well, you might as well not be there. I mean, with those numbers.
Yeah.
So,
And going back again, Sam, bring it back to local. Bring it down to this level.
yep.
If you don't, it hurts the town that you live in anyways. I think the involvement, we said it earlier, when I see people enter the school race citywide, and it's incredible, because we didn't have anybody running it in the school system, the citywide race.
Now, for the
last time.
benefit of the Chelmsford people,
Yeah.
Bob,
Yeah.
it's different in Lowell, right? Because your school committee and your city council runs every 2 years.
You're correct.
Okay, in the towns, it's a 3-year cycle. Okay, so there's a distinction, and I always thought that the 2-year thing was difficult because you always are campaigning. You're always
You're
trying
right.
to raise money.
It's like constant.
It's tough, right?
Yeah. But not if you do your job really
Yeah.
well, or you're on the right issues.
Yeah, so the Plan E city form, it's a 2-year thing for council and school committee.
Just going to the text, they should be forced, the people who created the mess, to clean it up, and not our DPW. They made the mess. Good point, but it's like telling a 3-year-old.
How do you do
Well,
that?
It ain't gonna be happening.
Yeah,
So-
how would you do that?
No, you're not going to make
Well, I
that
think
clean.
enforcement is now in a different direction. So I'm giving the administration of the city of Lowell the benefit of the doubt. They got the homeless going in a good direction, and we'll see what happens. And the next text says, and the American people gave Barack the big middle finger this time. He's not the leader of the party anymore.
It would appear so.
Moving right along to the next text. Love Coach Bossy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He may have retired more times than Michael Jordan.
But he may have retired more times than Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he might have been retired, but he was always involved.
Could be. But when George Bossy steps back and he sees the whole wrestling thing start to cave in, I don't blame him for jumping back in again. And Sam, you've led a bunch of stuff in your lifetime, and you step back and you see oh, it's not going the direction I thought it was going to be. It's so God bless George Bossy.
But he's really never left. You know, you say he's retired. Yeah, he became an AD when I was around on the school committee, an athletic director. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they just do that for people to make sure they can get at a level for a better retirement. You know, you get the highest 3 years.
Right.
You know, if you get paid the most, and then you bounce back to being what you loved, the wrestling coach. My favorite story about George Bossy was 1969, when I still was in school before I quit school. I went out for football, and he was the offensive line coach. Don't forget what year I'm talking about, 1969.
69.
You wouldn't believe how much he did for me to be prepared to go into the Army, Fort Polk, Louisiana. They called it Fort Puke. That's what they called it. And I went there, weighed 255 pounds approximately. 16 weeks later, I went home to get married, and I weighed 198. 16 weeks, 255 to 198. Could run 5 miles in about 35 minutes.
I'm right there with you. I lost 45 pounds in basic training. 45 pounds.
Yeah,
They run it right off you.
So were you a poker boy when you went in, Sam? What'd you weigh when you went in?
I weighed 205 pounds when I went in.
Wow.
You know, my Uncle Red, he passed away from diabetes at 59. My dad passed away at 63. He caught colon cancer when he was 59. And the day my dad passed, I gave up cigarettes.
Oh, good.
That's
How many years ago?
It was 2000 when he passed.
All right.
So I've been off cigarettes that long. And if I can give you any good information out there, if you still smoke cigarettes,
Stop.
get off them somehow, some way. And it's not easy. But I'll tell you something.
You probably added 10 years to your life.
Yeah,
Bob.
there's no doubt about it.
Right.
Cigarette smoking took a lot of my friends and family members down.
I stopped in, let's see, I was 40, so that would be almost 38 years ago. Best thing I ever did, but you're absolutely right. It's if you're addicted, obviously, and
tough.
it's tough. I was lucky. I was able to stop cold turkey. Not everybody can do that, but I was able to do it. And when I look back on it, and I think, what a stupid, dumb habit that is. And they get you hooked because the nicotine in the cigarettes is addictive. It's like alcohol, and it's tough. I feel sorry for people who are addicted to smoking.
Oh,
but
Sam.
I smoked for 24 years, and started when I was 16, and everybody in my family smoked except my brother. He was the only one who didn't smoke, but everybody else smoked. So you got people smoking all around you. You have no, it's pretty tough,
Sam, I hope they have a cigarette machine up in heaven, because I'm going to ask St. Peter when I get there, if I get there, where can I get a pack of Cools up here?
Oh, God, I hope not.
Well,
I love smoking.
I was like 12 painting houses with my grandfather and have a Lucky Strike hanging out of my mouth.
There you go.
Around the other side of the house so he couldn't see me smoking, but I was smoking. Started when I was 12. No wonder I couldn't make it to first base. They could throw me out from left field.
No, it's
Cigarette smoking's just no good.
it kills you.
And I'll tell you, Sam, in my opinion, it's an opinion show, sugar is harder than quitting cigarettes. I finally found something in my life.
You might be right.
Yeah, sugar is very tough. That's real tough.
I think you're right, though. It is addictive.
Oh,
It is addictive.
I try not to eat sugar and then I constantly fight it. It's always around me.
Well, you have to have some, but the thing is that you don't need to eat extra sugar, and by that I mean taking the sugar bowl and putting it on stuff, because all your processed food has sugar in it, and which is too bad, but that's the way it is. I mean, pick up the ingredients of anything. You wouldn't think, processed meat has sugar in it. Why? Okay, I mean, you're surprised when you read the ingredients of things. So sugar is in everything. It's in everything.
And this New Year's Eve, I had so much fun. And I just sat at home. I watched not the ball drop, Dick Clark show. I didn't watch that one.
Yeah.
I watched the Nashville celebration in Nashville. And anyways, Jelly Roll, this guy Jelly Roll, I just picked up on him, and I love music. Jelly Roll is incredible. He stole the show. Without a doubt, that guy is singing from the heart.
I didn't make it to.
I didn't
make it to midnight.
No,
I was in bed at 11:15, and I didn't make it till midnight.
I went to bed regular. I celebrated with Western Europe at around 7.
There you go.
I did my Happy New Year's, and I went to bed after the regular time. I woke up at midnight for a bathroom visit. It was 11:45. And so I sat down, put on the TV, and there was
There you go.
14 minutes of commercials.
Well, you could celebrate New Year's Day a day early if you watch the New Zealand ball drop, right? Because of the time zone. So
Good thinking.
yeah.
I got a couple of texts here. Mr. Bossy taught discipline, accountability to people who came in contact with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was a father figure with a good amount of students
There you go.
in that 60 years. Yeah, George Bossy, Cadillac of a guy.
Yeah, you know why I loved him more than anything? No, he didn't care where you were from. You know, like the baseball team for me, I won't bring up names, but the baseball team for years, you had to live in a certain district. If you came from Centerville, you had to work 10 times harder to be on the baseball team.
That's true.
Bossy would take you from no matter where you lived.
He didn't care if you were a city councilor.
No, you were a housing kid. He'd give you a ride home if you needed it.
Yep, good
Yeah,
guy.
tremendous guy, yeah.
Mr. Chase, did the Army give you cigarettes?
No, you had to buy them. $2 a carton from the PX. Imagine that.
You could get free cigarettes at Concord Prison. Concord Prison
Actually,
gave 'em.
let me expand that. Now, I'm sure it's totally different today. They probably tell you not to smoke, but when I was
not allowed.
when I was in the Army, you could buy, and this was 1969, 1970, that era. You could buy cigarettes for $2 a carton from the PX, but they restricted you to 2 cartons a week. You had to have a voucher. You could not, they would not sell you more than 2. And the reason for that is, what they were afraid of is that you'd go in and you'd buy these very cheap cigarettes. And if you were buying them in quantity, they were afraid you were going to bootleg them or sell them to relatives and stuff like that. So they tried to control it. You were limited to 2 cartons a week, which is more than enough. I smoked probably a pack a day, pack and a half a day back then.
Yeah, the hardest branch to get into is definitely Air Force right now. If you want to join, the Air Force is the place to go. But it's very hard to get in.
Why do you say that, Bob?
It just is. They're not going to take you with any
Why is it the place to go?
jobs. When you get out of the Army, what can you become? A lot of firemen do it.
I think that's true.
A lot of firemen. Jobs, certain
Yeah.
things,
You said the
mechanics.
Air Force.
Yeah, the Air Force.
Well,
But
they're electronically oriented, so if you want to
Yeah.
do computer stuff and things like that, the Air Force is probably the better service to
Yeah,
to
but
go
when
to.
you sign up, okay, I want to be a computer wizard.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy downtown was, oh, yeah, no, we need computer wizards. You get in there and say, no, you're going to cook. We're going to make you a cook.
Well,
How much choice do you have?
they got contracts now.
it's
before they
different.
go
It's
in.
different. When Bob and I were in, what you
We
just
should ask the Air Force guy.
Yeah.
We had an Army guy come once. We should see if
when
he-
Bob and I were in, what you just said was true, okay? What the Army would do is you could sign up, you could volunteer for a 3-year active duty, and they would guarantee you an MOS, which means they guarantee that at some point during your Army career, they will send you to that school. Okay, doesn't mean that's what you're going to do, because the first priority, and they tell you that right when you go in. You sign the papers, you go in, you go to your basic training company, and they sit you down and they say, your first MOS is infantry. Every Army enlisted man is an infantryman first. Your MOS is second. They tell you that right off the
MOS?
bat.
What's the MOS?
Military Occupational Specialty. Okay?
I was an 11B10, and my secondary MOS was a 64 Charlie.
Okay.
And I ended up driving VIPs.
There you go.
Omar Bradley, Ted Kennedy. I didn't drive
And
them,
you
but
can own to be a cab driver.
and then I came out and I was an Uber driver, cab driver, nothing like cab
There you go.
driver.
You see? There you go. It worked out.
I made most of my money with that guy that called in earlier. Hookers needing a ride at a Caswell Hotel in Tewksbury. Veterans would get their check, call the cab company, give you a half of 50, rip it, give it to you, say, go find me a girl. Back and forth. That's how you made money.
Then when you got it,
So the
they
guy
give you
was
the
right.
other half, right?
Right. But getting back to what we need to do in Lowell, to me, number one issue, tighten down on drug dealers, not the kids that are in the bushes and these homeless people. They're not the people that are causing your issues. It's the drug dealers.
Suppliers, right?
Drug dealers, and we can do it. We got the police force that can do it. You just got to say to them,
Do you think
Go
the-
do it.
I'm going to ask.
That's it.
I'm going to ask you a question
Yeah.
because I don't know the answer. Do you think the police force in Lowell, they have enough personnel? Is it properly staffed, or do they need more? What do you think about that?
well, I believe you could always use a few more, but I know I know this is what really hurts. The people that have retired already that I've seen in the past year or two, we've lost some real good police officers. You know, you get them back for details,
Right.
you know, out there they get overtime. That's like a tutor, a teacher going back and
Right.
teaching kids how to read. And they deserve that overtime. But again, there's a big issue too. Do you want cops watching potholes, or do you want them chasing down drug dealers? I'm a guy that would want them to chase down the drug dealers, get them out of Lowell, and they're just going to move, but not the homeless. I'm talking the drug users. You want to see them, go down there. Jerry's variety, I call it. It's Jay's now, or the old Santoros. Lowell's loaded with it, and it's scaring people out of the town, and it's definitely hurting businesses. So that's the next step they have to take, the city council, and they will. I believe they're on a roll. Maybe I'm the only one that thinks that.
Well, I hope that's true.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's election year, and
Well, I don't know if it's...
I'm telling people I want you to run I want you to run against everybody.
Yeah.
And we need to find candidates in every single district of the city of Lowell. And for the townies, the same thing. Tewksbury, Chelmsford, Dracut, we need to get people to run
It's
for
a-
public office.
Yeah.
You cheapskates don't pay, the townies don't pay selectmen.
Some towns do.
So that's why only rich people in those towns can get those jobs, because they don't need the money. And so I think that's unfair in the towns that they don't pay their elected officials, but you can't change their mind. We're here because we love the town.
The
Only
main,
rich people serve.
the main reason that they're not paid, and again, this is a matter of opinion that people have or don't have, but the main reason is if you pay your town officials even a small stipend, it makes them eligible to buy into the town insurance, and that's a long-term thing, and it's very expensive, and so that's the reason a lot of towns have chosen not to pay their select boards and their school committee people, because they don't want those people buying into the town insurance.
Well, I say that only rich people can run in towns, because everybody has $500 worth of internet and cell phone bills in their family. They got their cable TV bill, they got the internet for every single kid, they got the cell phone for every single kid. There's $500 going out the window just on those things alone. And the town just goes, oh, we don't need to pay. No, don't need to pay. I think that's too bad. I think we'd have better people running our elected officials if we paid them fairly.
I agree.
Yeah, it goes with the people that vote too. Look at over 70,000 registered voters in Lowell, approximate, but I think it's over 70,000.
And what do you get for a local
Lucky
election?
to get 10.
Yeah.
Lucky to get 10.
Yep.
And so people aren't voting. People don't
Yep.
want to be a city council.
Yep.
They don't want to be on the schools, but Danielle McFadden does. I love that name, McFadden. I keep forgetting her first name.
Danielle, you
Yeah,
just said
but
it.
I love her last name. I really do.
Yeah.
And her putting her name in for citywide school committee,
Good
it's
for her.
unbelievable. It's
So,
beautiful.
Are all the incumbents going to run, do you
Well,
think?
they haven't said yet, but I'm telling you, someone's going to drop out. That name alone is going to make one of them drop out.
You may be right.
Yeah, I'm going to be right. Because if they're not scared yet, it's going to get better as time goes on. But she did it already, Danielle McFadden. She already lit the match, and hopefully people see how important that seat is.
So today is the first day, January 2nd, that people in Chelmsford can take out papers to run, you know, so.
Hey, how do you guys feel about the calamities that happened yesterday? The cyber truck that blew up, and it wasn't a truck, there was a bomb in the back of that truck. That back out in Las Vegas, and the big event where 15 people got killed by this guy running down the street. You guys have anything you want to say about that before we run out of time? Because we,
No,
never really covered it.
No, I know we didn't, and you know something, I think the more they cover it nationally too, it's just, you get these other people that watch it so much on TV and they feel, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. I just think it feeds that, you
Yeah,
know.
I
I hate to say it that way, but
I think you're right.
I was scared just knowing I had friends that are there to watch the Sugar Bowl tonight. And I think it's tonight. They can't reschedule that game because it's Notre Dame against Georgia. It's going to be quite the... Scare some people to go to that game tonight, I guarantee you that. They're going to have their eyes open. It's terrible. That's what they're out to do, scare us. And we just have to get better at it. We will. We will. That's one thing great about this country. And Sam, I never feel like we're weak. I don't. Right now, I can say, hey, go back to the draft. You'll have a better army. I would vote that way. I think we should draft. But again, is it going to be a fair draft? Are we only going to take the poor? We're going to take the rich, the kids in school, the ones that fake injuries? I mean, a lot of things can happen,
right,
you know?
Right. Of course, you know how I think. I think we need to have universal military. I think everybody needs to serve. Just my opinion, folks. Don't yell at me. Just my opinion.
I agree.
I agree. Everybody should have to go into the service.
Yep.
Everybody. I don't care if you're handicapped, in a wheelchair,
Yep.
mentally
You
ill.
can do something.
Everybody goes into the service.
You can do something. Right.
I like that idea.
Well, that's Western Europe. That's
Yeah.
the way it is. If you're a French citizen or a German citizen or a British citizen, you have compulsory military service. That's the way the Western European countries do it.
You know, and the way I look at, you know, when they talk about China and Russia and North Korea, all the countries that don't like America, that doesn't faze me. I look at who's on my side. Israel, small country, right? Maybe the third or fourth best Air Force
Thank
in the
God.
world.
Thank God they're there. Thank God they're there.
Nice to have them on our side. How about England?
Yep.
Another country on our side. Just look at the countries that believe in America and the ones that don't.
Can you imagine if Russia was on our side, how much better we'd be off?
Well, I think Russia's kind of on our side now that Trump is elected. Putin needs to get out of a jam. He's in a jam. That guy's in a jam. He's borrowing everything.
Putin's in a time warp.
Yeah, he's in trouble.
He thinks it's 1970. You know, he still thinks it's the USSR. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's his problem.
Well, I still think Trump can settle him down too, though. I really do.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I feel good about things. We haven't even started. I don't like how long it takes for a president to get in there after he wins.
Well, it used to be March 4th. They changed that in 1933 with Roosevelt. So you had the election in November, and the president wasn't sworn in until March 4th. But that was because in the old days, it took people a long time to travel to Washington. You know what I'm saying? So today, you don't have that problem, obviously. Yeah, January 20th is it's too bad it can't be done a little sooner.
Got a bunch of texts. This first one was from Mike Sawyer. He's one of our frequent flyers here. And he says, Sam Chase, Bob Hoey, hope you have a good, happy new year. Good show today. Thanks, Mike. Moving right along here. Also, 10 people shot at a nightclub in Queens, New York.
Wonderful.
I did not know that. Thank you for the update. How about job performance payment? This came in when we were talking about city councilors and select people getting fair pay. I don't know.
Who's going to evaluate them? The evaluation is the election.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point. But I'm glad to hear you, Sam, you agree that they should get paid more. And then, was Mr. Krieger flowers in the Air Force? Yes, he was. Cliff was. And Cliff will be back tomorrow. Thank you for your comments.
And the only reason why I say Air Force is the place to be, it's the hardest place to get in. That's all. When anything's real hard to get in, it's like you want a good job making 80 to 200,000, become a prison guard. That's how bad they can't get help. They can't even fill a class anymore.
I'm not surprised.
You know? And the cops, a lot of policemen can make a lot of money too, just on overtime, because they don't have the staff. That's what they say. I think
those are very dangerous jobs for the kiddos who are playing with their phones all day, and that's what the kiddos do. We're addicted to cell phone technology. That's a danger. To be a prison guard, it's a danger. Would you say it's a safe job?
No.
I would say this. It's an easy job physically. Mentally, it's a tough job. That's where you got to be sharp. You know, like I say, there's a lot of people with mental health issues in our jails nowadays. It's night and day for me. It actually scares me to try to deal with someone with mental health problems. Bank robbers, murderers, rapists, no problem for me. None. Never made me nervous one time, but mental health people that are in jail that shouldn't be scared me the most. That's the gospel's truth. They scared me more.
Because of their unpredictability.
Yeah, they were people that were just smashing a window at a jewelry store to be put away, just for a nice warm room, 3 meals a day. And they're in there and they don't get the proper treatment that they need. You lock up someone with mental issues and you're just going to have a lot of problems behind that cell door. Cutting up, hanging themselves, whatever. I've seen it all. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. But you can point the finger at a certain governor going back certain years when they took money out of mental health, and that's where it turned. But,
Probably the mental health, when mental health went away in Massachusetts, it was a good thing. The state was doing a piss-poor job. And to put the put the government back in charge of mental health, it's not a direction I want them to go. I want you to get a professional organization like Tufts Hospital. Tufts is in Lowell. They own Lowell General now, a corporate hospital. And we should demand Tufts treat the mentally ill. We're already paying for it. They're all on Mass Health. I already picked the building out. It's St. John's Nursing School on Stackpole Street. Retrofit that building, load it up with the mentally ill in town, and let's get them going in a good direction rather than just, here's an EBT card, have a free-for-all. We just give these poor souls money, and we don't even hope for the best. Hey, that's the best we can do. So get the government out of this. Let's get the mentally ill housed. Talk to Lori Trahan about taking away their rights so we can forcibly house these mentally ill people and get them going.
And that's the issue. That's why it's the way it is now, because it started as a civil rights issue for these people. That's how it started. We can't forcibly force them into these institutions. That was the mentality, but it's a tough one, you know.
See, if you're insured, if you have insurance, you know, you have the right job or whatever, but you have the right insurance, and you have a judge that knows what he's doing, they can straighten out a lot of people. You put an ankle bracelet on them, you put them in a halfway or a dry house, and keep them in there for a year. I've seen it work.
Hey, speaking of
I've personally seen it work.
Where does Corey Robinson go to get his reputation back?
Oh, he hasn't lost much. Hasn't lost much.
Well, do you think?
Not with me, he hasn't lost anything.
Do you think he'll get any apologies from the media?
No, I hope he does, but he doesn't need
Does
that.
the media ever apologize for anything that they get wrong?
They'll put it on page 44.
Well, you're lucky if they do that.
Yeah, and that can, like I said, it happens to people all the time. That's one thing I've seen that no one wants to talk about when we talk about a big issue, domestic issues. There's no doubt back in our younger days, Sam, a lot of women were definitely getting abused.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt. No one can deny that. But as time evolved, I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of women that can just point at a man and get rid of him. That's where the issues are now.
That's also true.
Well, I'll agree the pendulum has swung, but I mean, I remember watching Fred and Wilma, the Flintstones. How he treated Wilma was terrible. And that was acceptable. Watching the Jackie Gleason show, which was one of the big time things, to the moon, Alice, to the moon. Perfectly acceptable. That was the way of the world. And I'm glad the pendulum has swung the other way, and I'm going to read these texts. Once we start drilling the liquid gold Putin, we'll be put in a box. Okay, interesting comment, thank you. Great show today, Bob. Bang up job as host. I'll miss looking at the home-baked goodies from Evelyn. Yeah, we all miss Evelyn's good old homemade. Evelyn couldn't be here today. She's up north. Great show today. Happy New Year. Stay safe out there. And we got about 90 seconds left, so there's no more text today. If you send a text in, sorry, ain't gonna.
Well, how about chasing the facts, Sam? You got anything coming up for your show?
I'm trying to line up some guests as we speak. I had one show in December, so I kind of took the month off. Usually I try to do 2 or 3 tapings a month. So I'm currently trying to set up schedule. Hopefully we'll start next week. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's what we can do. I mean, it's early. We got a great football. Go Irish, go tonight. That's my opinion. I want to see Notre Dame win. Yeah, that's what I'll be looking at tonight.
That's good. Love college ball.
Oh, I do.
I love college ball. I'd rather watch college ball than professional football.
I'm going to put this out there for about 20 seconds. I don't care what neighborhood you live in. We need people to run for city council. We need people to run for school committee. All over the city of Lowell, Massachusetts, we need to get excellence in our local government and excellence in our schools.
And let's younger people, like to see some younger people step up.
Yeah, and I say
You know,
call that number.
Say
that
goodbye,
is-
guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Have a great day.
See you tomorrow. Thanks. It's out there for about 20 seconds. I don't care what neighborhood you live in.